So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to another episode of Is It That Bad, where we take a look at an album that maybe got mixed reviews and things like that. And for this week, Rock of All Ages said since Linkin Park is reuniting, we should do a Linkin Park. And first, he suggested One More Light from 2017, but I said, that's too easy, man. I'm like, I don't think anyone, that would be like a very short episode.
I thought it was so funny. You just plainly replied, that album sucks. Like, you've done episodes for Falling in Reverse and Corey Feldman, and even you were like, I'm not touching that one.
Yeah, I know, because it's that album it's just too easy, like to rip it apart. But to me, in my opinion, with Linkin Park, I love the first two albums. The third album, I like some stuff in it. But on the third album, yeah, this is what happened on the third album. I have a hybrid theory. So my theory is that, on that song, they had a song on that what's the name of the song? What I Become. That song was in a Transformers movie. And after that, I feel like they had that sound. Every other album sounded like they would have songs for the freaking Transformers movies, which I'm going to go on record and say, I think all Transformer movies suck.
Even Bumblebee?
The first one's great. Come on.
They all
the Bumblebee spinoff was amazing.
Bumblebee's good
I haven't seen it. I'd rather keep my money.
That one is amazing. The Michael Bay ones you can skip.
I would skip each and every one of them. So yeah, that's my thing with Linkin Park. So people are gonna think like, hey, what album did you decide on? So the album that we decided on, I thought, hey, we should do Living Things from 2012, which is their fifth album. And because the other album I thought was the one before this, 1000 Songs, which I thought was pretty bad as well. But this one, I thought maybe this is interesting because I think this album, it did get mixed reviews. I checked and some reviews were higher, but there were some 5 out of 10s, some 6 out of 10. So it did get some mixed reviews. And this is an album that it has like more of that electronic sound. Because the one before that, 1000 Songs, I think had the guitars were so low. So I thought this would be an interesting one to talk about. But before we get to the rounds, I want to ask everyone, like, what do they think of the new Linkin Park reunion with Emily Armstrong as a singer? Well, let's start with you, Nick. What do you think of her as a replacement? Did you say replacement? And the whole Linkin Park coming back.
Well, I caught the live stream that aired on YouTube last week of their first show with Emily Armstrong, and that was before all this controversy kind of came out after that. And I thought actually it was a pretty good performance. I don't think she's trying to replace Chester Bennington in any way, and I thought as a vocalist she was pretty strong. Like when she got up to do those really high notes, she was able to have a little bit of grit in her voice, and she was able to really hit those notes. So from a technical perspective, I think she was good as a singer for Linkin Park. And then all this other stuff started coming out about her, and then that kind of complicated the situation. And I think Linkin Park, I don't know whether they were anticipating this kind of backlash based on, I don't want to get into all the particulars, but all the backlash about it. I don't know if they anticipated that or if they were kind of blind to the whole thing. But as far as she goes as a singer, I think she's really strong. But then I don't really know if she's worth all of this controversy it's created as a result. So it's kind of a little bit of half and half for me. Good singer, but not really loving all this controversy about her being the new singer for Linkin Park and her past history.
Yeah. What about you, JC?
Yeah, I listened to a few songs from the live stream, and I heard her do a couple songs. So I think, yeah, she has a good voice. I think she fits the band. As far as the controversy, I think I don't know, it's probably going to be something that's going to pass, and people might just forget about it. But I think she does pretty well. I like the new song. The new single sounds very well. It's not like they're not going back to Hybrid Theory or Meteor. I mean, I'm not expecting this new album From Zero to be, another Meteor or anything like that. But it'll probably be as good as maybe some of their like like mid 2000s or 2010s, like something along those lines. So I think it'll be pretty good. So I'm looking forward to the new album. I think she has a good voice. I think she fits the band. I think she's a good fit. Yeah.
What about you, Rock of All Ages?
So I first became aware of Emily's band Dead Sarah through their 2021 song Heroes, which is actually pretty good. I like the song. It didn't really do much on radio, so I didn't really feel the need to look into them. Then 3 years later, I find out she is recruited as the new singer for Linkin Park. And I remember getting home from work and finding out on Instagram, and everyone's like, oh my God, Linkin Park's back. And then immediately, boo, she's a Scientologist. I mean, as far as replacing lead singers, like there's precedent, like AC/DC did it. Alice in Chains did it. I saw Queen with Adam Lambert 3 times. And while they're, not doing
Stone
anything.
Temple Pilots.
Yeah, with Chester Bennington, incidentally.
They did it twice.
Yes.
With Chester and now with Jeff Good, which I'm
Yeah.
going to see them on November 2nd.
Oh, have fun.
And I have my thoughts. I thought Chester and Stone Temple Pilots did not mesh well at all.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But I mean, it seems like an impossible. The best comparison I can make is when they did the Aladdin remake, and they were like, "Who's gonna replace Robin Williams as the genie?" Because that seems like such an impossible task. Replacing Chester Bennington, similarly, is an impossible task. Not just because, everyone still has such an emotional attachment to him, but also he was the face of the band. He wasn't in the original lineup, but he became the face of the band. How do you fill in for that? But I think it could have worked. And if they were going to do a female singer, as there was a lot of buzz that they were going to do.
Remember they said Amy Lee. And I was like, why would Amy Lee lead Evanescence where she's like the top? She is Evanescence to join a band where she's going to be like second fiddle.
I would have said Courtney LaPlante from Spirit Box. She would have killed.
But Spirit Box is pretty hot right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are so many great women in rock and metal that they could have picked. And they happened to pick one who apparently showed that they did not do a great job in the vetting process.
How does that kind of information not just come out there? Like, how do you get through this whole thing of learning her joining the band and then them not knowing all of this information? It seems.
I think it turns out that she was like born into Scientology instead of joining it, similar to Beck. But it's not just that she's a Scientologist or that she defended Danny Masterson. It's that both of those things run counter to what Chester stood for as a person. And I think that is where the backlash comes from. Not just that she is these things, but also she is these things and also who she's replacing.
And also I read that Chester's song is saying that he's saying that Mike Shinoda, like he's like erasing his father's legacy, which like I don't think that's true. Like I don't. I think I look at this more not as a replacement. I think if they would have chosen a man, it would have been worse, because I think obviously they're always going to compare it to Chester Bennington. I think they went the other route to a female, because if you hear the last Linkin Park albums, there's more softer singing. But yeah, Emily, I think she's not a bad singer. I did saw the live stream, and I don't think she can hit those high notes like quite like Chester. And I'm listening. I've been listening to all Linkin Park, and he's not going to be replaced. So I think it's like a different band. So there's a lot of people say, oh, they should have changed their name. But why should they change their name? Because like Mike Shinoda, this is the thing with the band. It's like with Alice in Chains. Alice in Chains, Lane Staley, but Jerry Cantrell wrote a lot of the songs and he also sings. So that's like, I see more of like this because like a band that I see that could never replace a singer would be Soundgarden. Soundgarden, there's no way that there's no way that you can do Chris Cornell, but having Linkin Park, Mike Shinoda does a lot of rapping and he also kind of sings because he on his other band for Minor he sings. So for me, it's I find it's more of like a rebranding of the band, and I think they had a female singer because I think that because if they had a dude, it would have been like I think like worse. So I think it's kind of smart in a way, and I think right now you have to. It's Mike Shinoda's band. Like this is right now that Linkin Park is Mike Shinoda's band, and yeah. That's it. So yeah, we had an impromptu like discussion before we go into the Living Things album from 2012. So people, we want to know what you think of the reunion and your thoughts. Leave that in the comments. So for the first round, you know the drill. We're going to give our first impressions of this album when we heard it. Then we're going to pick round 2, 3 songs that we maybe think are the weakest. In the last round, we're gonna vote thumbs up, thumbs sideways, or thumbs down, and give our final thoughts on the record. So yeah, let's do Rock of All Ages, JC, Nick, and then me. Now we're going the other way. So Rock of All Ages, your first impressions on this record, Living Things, Living Things.
Stranger Things. Man, what a good show from what I hear. I think it was back in like 2021 when I listened to all of the Linkin Park albums, the ones with Chester anyway, in like order. Before that, they were not a band I grew up with. I mean, I have a very vague memory of hearing their songs at summer camp. And this would have been 2007 or 2008 because these were the singles from Minutes to Midnight, What I've Done, Bleed It Out, Shadow of the Day. So for a long time, they were a band I knew of, or more accurately, I knew they existed, but that was the extent of it. And then, of course, because of that, I did not have the grief that came with learning that Chester Bennington had died. But I did at the time have in college, I had a weekly slot on my campus's student-run radio show, and I did play In the End as a tribute to him. But coming back to this album, Living Things, you brought up 1,000 Suns earlier. That album felt like the band didn't really want to do hit singles. They wanted to make a cohesive album statement.
Or guitars.
Yeah, and I do respect that. But this I had their last big Hot 100 hit, Burn It Down, which I feel a little weird talking about because we're recording this on 9/11 and the song is called Burn It Down. But yeah, this album I get why it got mixed reviews because it just becomes like Linkin Park, the album. It doesn't really do anything exciting or interesting. It's just, here's what you expect from Linkin Park. It's not a terrible album. There were some songs I did enjoy, but I think if you skip this, you're not missing out on anything too, this album's not going to change your life. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. First impression. So what about you, JC?
Okay, I kind of discovered this one later on. I was a big fan of Linkin Park when it first came out, like Hybrid Theater, Meteor, Minutes to Midnight. I was really into those albums, and then I kind of forgot about them. So I didn't listen to 1,000 Suns, and I didn't listen to Living Things when they came out. And then I kind of rediscovered them when The Hunting Party came out. I bought that one when it came out. Then I listened to One More Light when it came out. So I think the 2 albums that I didn't listen to when they came out were 1,000 Suns and this one, Living Things. Now I've listened to this one before because I think a few years ago I did a Linkin Park ranking video, so I listened to all the albums. That was when my channel was very early, so I think that's going back to like early 2021 or something like that. So I listened to it again, and I noticed a couple of things. It has some good stuff, but I think there's like a lack of guitars, and there's like a lot more electronics and keyboards, and they're also going more for, I think like Chester Bennington is kind of like holding back. You don't really hear him like showing off his vocal abilities. Like he doesn't really like do lots of like his screams where you would hear more on their earlier albums.
There's a song,
Now there were
Victim.
yeah, I mean there are some
Yeah, there's a little bit. Yeah,
there are a few songs where he does like do the screams, but I kind of feel that he's like holding back where they're going for more of like a commercial sound. But I think I'll give my final thoughts at the end. But I think that there's some stuff. I like the singles. Real like Lost in the Echo, in My Remains Burning Down. Like the first three songs are really good. A couple good songs in the middle. So I'll discuss more of it when we get to the next round. But I think it's one of those albums where they're kind of like going for a commercial sound, and that was my impression of it. Yeah.
yeah. What about you, Nick?
Yeah, I'm not really super familiar with this album. I like a lot of Linkin Park's hits. I think like just like everybody else, we've been exposed to their music. They're all over rock radio. They're all over music video channels, especially during the earlier parts of their career when there actually were music video channels. But they've never really been an album band for me. I've never really explored a lot of their records. Like you guys have said that a lot of you guys have
It's not
done.
Oasis.
Well, just lots of other bands, but just not really Linkin Park. But you guys have said you guys have all done the discography, you've done the deep dive into all their different albums and stuff. I've never really done that, so I don't really know what makes a good or a bad Linkin Park album. I think we tend to judge everything against Meteora and Hybrid Theory, which are albums that I'm familiar with. I have listened to those ones. But for me, this one just really feels like it's lacking a lot of the energy that Linkin Park has, especially on those first few records. It really it lacks a lot of the big headline Linkin Park singles. When you think about, we're talking about What I've Done. Like, there's nothing on this album that is worthy of being in the credits of a Transformers movie. There's just really nothing there that Shia LaBeouf can't be making that with Megan Fox to any of these songs at the end of the movie. I don't think that would
Maybe
really
burn
work,
it down.
maybe burn it down. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
so I think it's just, to me it sounds like they're past their prime. I think with some bands they start out strong and they continue to put out strong music throughout their careers, but for me this one seems to be like they're in the middle of, like we were saying, they're just going through the motions. It sounds like Linkin Park, but it doesn't really have the energy of some of that stuff that we love from earlier on in their career. So it's really just lifeless to me, and like we're saying, it just seems a little bit watered down than from the usual Linkin Park material. So that was kind of my first impressions of this one.
Okay. For me, my first impression, I did listen to this album when it came out, and I think it was a mixture of like it's Minutes to Midnight, right?
Yeah.
I almost said the name of the Foo Fighters album. It's Minutes to Midnight. It has like a Minutes to Midnight type of like format to it, but with more electronic. So I think that because the album before this, 1,000 Songs, was like purely more like without guitars, and it was a very weird album and divisive album when it came out. And funny enough, after this album, they did a very aggressive album with The Hunting Party.
That album was fantastic.
Yeah. Yes, I really enjoyed that album. That album was like their best album after the first two, in my opinion. Better, and then they went to the one that I said, like, no, I'm not gonna cover this one because it didn't feel like a Linkin Park record. But Living Things is interesting because it had some good, like some different type of reviews, and I remember really Lost in the Echo and Burn It Down. I really enjoyed those two tracks a lot, and I think Victimized is also a good track, and you get more of that aggression from Chester.
It's way too short though.
But it's way too short. Yeah, exactly. But also this album, it's short, it's like 36 minutes, and it suffers, in my opinion, of having a lot of filler. There's a lot of like songs that like blending together and feel like filler to me. And yeah, it's so it's interesting. And I just remember the singles. The other one was Castles of Glass. I think that's okay. But Lost in the Echo and Burning Down, I think, are awesome singles. And the other one was Powerless, which I think ends the record. So yeah, let's go to round two, where we're gonna pick three songs that maybe we think are the weakest. So Rock of All Ages, what three songs did you pick and why?
So I picked three songs, but the thing is, two of them are fine. I picked I'll Be Gone and Powerless. Um, I'll Be Gone is okay. It's actually not that bad, but something has to be third lowest. Powerless is kind of meh. The worst song on the album, in my opinion, is easily Lies, Greed, and Misery. Like, the beat is irritating, and Chester's chorus is surprisingly bad. Like, he's normally great at a hook, but not on here. So those are my three songs. I did want to say about Castle of Glass, the beat reminded me a little bit of Breaking the Habit.
Yeah,
A little bit, yeah.
agreed.
Yeah. Yeah, good picks. So what about you, JC?
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna pick one that he just said, "Lies, Greed, and Misery." It's more of a rap song. I feel like I don't know if you guys remember when Jay-Z and Linkin Park did that mashup. They did like an EP, and it was on like
Yeah, I
MTV,
remember
where
that.
they mashed up like the Jay-Z songs with Linkin Park songs.
I got
This song
99
reminds
problems.
me, yeah, the 99 Problems. Yeah, this song in particular reminds me of like that type of sound. I think like Mike Shinoda sounds like he's trying to like rap in a Jay-Z style, and I think it's more keyboards, not enough guitars. It's more hip hop than rock, and yeah, well, like Rock of All Ages has said, Chester always sounds great, but I think like his vocals were distorted. Like they processed his vocals too much of this song. So that's my first pick. My second pick is going to be track 9, Skin to Bone. Another one where I think it's just too much with the electronic sounds. There's a lack of guitars, and it just kind of doesn't really seem to go anywhere. And I felt like the drum beat was like this like preset drum loop. Like that's why I kind of felt the song didn't really go anywhere. I kind of just felt like it had the same like beat like throughout the entire song. And my next one is going to be Until It Breaks, track number 10. Another one where it sounds more like a rap song, and it sounds like that old school rap from the 80s, something like Run DMC or LL Cool J. Like I used to listen to that stuff in the 80s. That's why I know those groups. But it kind of reminded me of that. And then Mike Shinoda is trying to like do this Jamaican accent, I think, and I think he doesn't really pull it off. And I know like Chester does some vocals in this when he kind of like saves the song a little bit, and then the end of the song is like new age music, so it's kind of weird. So this one didn't really work for me. So those are my three, and then in the next round there will be some songs that I like. So I'll get to that later. Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Nick?
I'm gonna put "Burn It Down" as one of the songs that I didn't really like. I'm familiar with it as a single. I heard it
Dude,
when it was a
that's
hit.
the best track.
But to me, this is Linkin Park on autopilot. I think it sounds super basic in terms of like Linkin Park's greatest singles. This one would be at the bottom. You know, if I was going to make an Oasis analogy of it, even though I like the song, it'd be like the Shock of the Lightning of Oasis, where it's just like it's this later on single. It's the last good single maybe that the band put out. Like Rock of All Ages said, like it was in the top 100 there, but I don't know where it really sat there. But it seems like that would be the last one that they had on the charts, right? So
I think it was at like number 100 on the 2012 Year End.
well, there you go. So it didn't even really get very far up the list. So it's I know it's a single, but I think it's a weak Linkin Park single. But then I'm gonna agree with the other guys. Lies, Greed, and Misery. This one was a complete miss for me, and I was even wondering if that was Chester singing in the chorus. I'm like, is there a guest on this song? I wasn't really sure. It didn't really sound like him at all. And I didn't really think that this one was a good track at all. There's quite a few filler tracks, like we were saying. There's quite a few filler songs on here where you're wondering, why are they even putting this on an album? This is not worthy of inclusion on a record. And then also going to agree with JC about Until It Breaks, because all of a sudden I thought that like Mike Shinoda sounded drunk on this song. It sounded like Linkin Park doing a lame version of POD. Again, what is the point of putting a track like this on a record? It's just, it doesn't make any sense at all. It's just completely 100% useless as far as being a track on this album. So those are the 3 weak songs for me.
Okay, good track. So we all pick a few same ones. What you think? This is like when I did that Oasis video and Matthew picked Songbird.
No.
That's just, I'm like, Bird, like what the hell? Like I was like, what? But for me, if I gotta pick tracks from this album that I think are the weakest, I'm gonna say I agree with Life's Great Misery. It's a very weird track. And yeah, like you can barely feel that is Chester. But then I don't know. I think this album after Victimized, there's like a very like after the seventh song, there's like a dip, and I could pick any of those songs, but I'm gonna pick one different from you guys. I'm gonna pick Roads on Travel because it sounded like a kumbaya. Like let's sing in the campfire. The roads on travel. I don't know. It sounded too hokey. Like put some s'mores. I don't know. Let's go. It sounded like I don't know. Like Linkin Park wants to do "It's a Small World" by Disney. So I thought it was lame as hell. It's a very lame track, and it follows "Victimized," which is actually good but too short. Like really, like you could have forget Roads on Travel. Give me more Victimized. And
Add a
then,
guitar solo.
yeah. And then, I don't know, if I think Skin to Bone on Until It Breaks, I think I'm going to go with Until It Breaks because, yeah, the rapping is pretty bad on it. And it's pretty hokey at times. So, yeah, those 3 tracks. So, yeah, let's go to the third and final round where we give our final opinion. And we vote thumbs up, thumbs sideways, or thumbs down. Rock of All Ages.
This is, as I alluded to earlier, not a terrible album, but also one you can very comfortably skip. It does have a couple of songs. I'm just gonna very quickly just list my top 3. Victimized, but once again, too short. Lost in the Echo. I did also like the line in Lost in the Echo where he says, "I can't see flat, it ain't my tone." A little musical humor. I appreciate that. And then perhaps controversially, Skin to Bone was one of my favorites. I did like some of the more mellow tracks on here, but again,
Is it about eating chicken?
it might be.
Or barbecue.
I haven't looked up what it's supposed to be about, but
yeah,
I'm gonna give it a sideways thumb.
Okay. So our first vote is a thumb sideways. What about you, JC?
Okay. Yeah, I think there's some good stuff here. I think like the first 3 songs are pretty good. Lost in the Echo, that was just kind of sounds like typical Linkin Park. In My Remains, that one has lots of melody. I like that one. And then Burn It Down, that's one. I like that single. I thought it was a pretty decent single. And I think it's probably my favorite on the
It could have been
album.
Transformers.
Maybe, yeah. And then a couple of the songs in the middle, I like Castle of Glass. That one's pretty good. I thought it has like an industrial beat. I like that one. Victimized, obviously that's like the only heavy song on the album, but it's pretty good. Kind of like feels out of place on the album, but as a song, I like it. And yeah, you mentioned before Roads on Travel. I don't hate it, but Yeah, I kind of put that on my notes. It sounds like they're using like Christmas bells. That one. I thought that was funny.
It's a
And then
small world or something like that.
yeah. And the last song, Powerless, I like it. It reminds me a lot of that song Shadow of the Day from Minutes to Midnight. It kind of has that same type of rhythm, or the chorus almost sounds like the same, but I like that song. So I'm gonna go sideways because there's enough here that I think I like. But like if I like did a ranking video, this would probably come towards the bottom, and I'll probably do an updated ranking when the new one comes out. But yeah, this one is like in like the bottom 3 or something. Yeah.
What about you, Nick?
Yeah, this wasn't a complete loss for me. There were some songs on here that I liked, like we were saying, Castle of Glass. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was a decent track. I liked the second track, which was In My Remains. And of course, the performances are great. Mike Shinoda and Chester Bennington is co-lead vocalist of Linkin Park, one of the best duos in all of rock history. So obviously, there's a lot to enjoy from the members of the band. But from what I can tell, this doesn't seem to be like one of the strongest Linkin Park records, and it was a very quick listen. Hector, we've done a lot of reviews for Is It That Bad? I think this one was one of the shorter ones. Not to say, this isn't like, we're not comparing this to Thor or one of those really bad ones, but this is pretty short. And then I saw that Rick Rubin produced this, which I guess that just means the band produced
that
it
means
themselves.
he just went one day and told them, yeah, that sucks, redo it, and then he went away.
He gave his opinion and his taste. And
then he gave them a 2 million tab for them to pay.
Produced by Rick Rubin and Mike Shinoda. Yeah, that honestly, that makes a lot of sense.
Mostly Mike Shinoda then, because
because of the rap part, because we all know Rick Rubin started with Run DMC and then transitioned into rock.
Yep, it's true. Well, there you go. Well, I'm going to give this one a thumbs sideways as well. I feel like this is Linkin Park just going through the motions on autopilot. I will have to dig in a little bit deeper with the other stuff in their catalog, but to compare it to the albums that I'm familiar with, this doesn't really seem to have the energy that you would expect from a Linkin Park record.
Yeah. Do we have 3 from sideways? So to me, final thoughts with this one is I think this is an album that is okay. There's some cool tracks in here that I remember them. I'm like, oh yeah, Burn It Down, Lost in the Echo, Victimized. I remember some tracks, and there were other tracks that they're just there, but even though I think they're filler, they're not terrible, except maybe Lies, Greed, Misery, and to me, Roads on Travel, which sucks. But beside that one, I think, it's obviously it's not the worst. I think the one before this I didn't like, and the 2017 one. And I think this one with Minutes to Midnight, I don't know, it's like very similar. To me, I love their first 2 albums. Those are the ones that I love. And I think this newer album, I bet you it's gonna sound more like this album. Because when I was listening to these tracks and I was listening to the new single, it sounded like that Living Things, like a type of electronic. So I think this album is gonna sound more like this album. That's I'm calling it. This album is Living Things Part 2.
Part 0.
What?
Part 0.
Part 0. Yes, 0 something. Yes. But I give it a thumb sideways as well. I think there's better stuff here than the bad, and the bad is not atrociously bad. It's just like there's a little bit of filler, and then you have like a song like Tinfoil, which is like an instrumental that doesn't do anything. I'm like thinking, couldn't you like put 1 minute more into Victimize and just take that away, because it's filler. But there you have it, Couchers. It's all from sideways. So we actually say this record, it's not that bad, it's not Linkin Park's best, it's not Hybrid Theory, it's not Meteora, but also I think this was a band trying to please some of their audience after 1,000 songs, which was a more experimental record. That, I actually don't remember that record that well. I would listen to it as well. Maybe I like it more now than when it came out because it was such a different sound. But yeah, we want to know from you, Couchers, what do you think of Linkin Park-Living Things? How would you rank it? What would you give a thumbs up, thumbs sideways, or thumbs down? And tell us your thoughts down below. So I want to thank my panel, Rock of All Ages. Thank you for doing this again. And I'm sorry I didn't want to do one more live, but I'm like, that would have been too easy.
I totally understand.
That would have been too easy, and people would have like clicked like it sucks, and then would like watch like 1 minute. But so subscribe to his channel. His channel is more of like a podcast. You don't see his face, so you only see his face when he comes on my channel, and he wears a glasses in a hat, so people will think that he's John Belushi.
I'm on a mission from God.
Yeah. So subscribe to his channel.
It's more of a Dan. I get more of a Dan Aykroyd vibe, but you know.
Dan Aykroyd, yeah.
Still the blues, brother. I'll take it.
He's still a blues brother.
Yeah.
So obviously JC Rock and Metal Reviews, he's killing it with his subscribers, and he's doing, you know, a lot of album reviews and also like, you know, like rankings, and you know, he puts a lot of thought into putting some special effects. He puts the thought that I don't put. I'm like, you want special effects? Not on my channel. It's just a couch and me rambling on, and at the end you'll get a picture of the CD. But JC gives you all that. So subscribe to his channel, and you know, like, so you can know more about some different stuff. So. Finally, for Nick Sino's channel, like I think you are the YouTuber that posts the most videos about Oasis. Like I'm telling you, like there's no one else.
Wave right now. Yeah, well, you know, like, you know, my favorite band of all time is reunited, and so and I was doing lots of Oasis stuff before, but like it's
no, I know.
I like to watch it on my channel, so I keep doing it, you know.
Yeah, if they come to Canada. I think so. Liam or no, if you watch this episode, hook us up with tickets. I'll fly to Canada. I'll share a laugh with you. So, but Nick, you know, he also does other rock album reviews. I've done a lot of collaborations on his channel as well. So subscribe to him. And finally, my channel, The Shield on a Couch. I do a lot of interviews. So when I think of my channel, I think it's album reviews, interviews, and Is It That Bad? Basically, those are the main things that I do. But I interview up-and-coming bands, like different stuff. So if you want to know about, like if you're the type of people that says there's no new bands, there's a lot of new bands, and sometimes the underground bands that you don't know about are the ones that are putting out the best material. So. Please watch the interviews on my channel, because there's a lot of great talent out there, and subscribe to my channel. And coming up next, so this weekend on Is It That Bad, we don't have one, we have 2 episodes. The second episode this week on Sunday, I did an episode with some YouTubers from Ireland, and we talk about Metallica Reload. So that's coming up Sunday at 10 a.m. And maybe next week, since obviously everyone knows what happened to Dave from Foo Fighters, I think it's time that we do an Is It That Bad for Foo Fighters. So that's right, people. We are tackling Medicine at Midnight. So that will be probably the next week. So
and
until next time,
I have a special thing I would like to show you guys related to Foo Fighters.
Yes. For that episode, right?
Yeah. Do you guys remember when they did that Bee Gees thing for Record Store Day one year?
Yes.
I have it.
Then you must show it.
And you might get to see it.
Yeah, I will get to see it. That's what Dave told his wife about the newborn child. Ooh, no, well, she's born already. She's like, honey, guess what? So, but you know what? He sticks around. So until next time, Couchers, this is Hector, the Shield Dude on a Couch. and we'll see you on a new episode of Is It That Bad? Thank you and goodbye.